Welcome to the podcast, Clare Smyth.
Well, hi Nathan, how you doing? Good to see you.
Thank you for taking the time to share your ingredients of success. I'm going to dive straight in with some quick fire questions to break us in. Ready?
Yeah, I don't know if I'll have all the answers though.
Ketchup and mayo?
Mayo.
Sweet or salty?
Salty.
Pineapple on pizza or not?
Yes.
Good answer. Love or money?
Love.
Window seat or aisle?
Window.
Have you ever called someone an idiot sandwich?
No.
Used your name to get something for free?
No.
Crop dusted someone?
Everyone's crop dusted somebody.
Faked sick to get off work?
No. I've never been off work sick.
Never. Touch wood.
Yeah.
Eating a Big Mac?
Yes.
Got the sack?
No.
Guilty pleasure?
Crisps.
Crisps, what flavor?
Salt and vinegar.
What's your last Google search?
Fuck. I don't know. Shall I have a look?
Yeah, have a look. Yeah. Live.
Yeah. Get stitched up now. Safari luggage.
Yeah.
Safari
luggage.
See? Right.
Nice. Okay. One thing that is guaranteed to piss you off?
I don't know. Laziness.
If you could cook for any one person, who would it be?
That's a tough one because I've cooked for quite a few
people.
Yeah,
I know you have.
I'm really quite fond of people like Michelle Obama or
Powerhouse.
Yeah.
One book that changed your life?
Book that changed my life has got to be the first cookbook I bought, I guess. Anton Mosman's Cuisine à la carte. I was 15 and I ordered it online through a catering catalogue because I saw the picture on the back of it with a black cover and the white hexagonal bowl and the red soup. So I thought it looked cool.
Nice. Favorite quote? If you can think of one to hand. What's your favorite quote?
I think one of my favorite ones is "There's no easy route to anywhere worth going."
Love that. Very cool. So, yeah, Core was one of the first restaurants that I knew of that really had a strong brand and identity and a DNA as a restaurant. Why was that important to you?
I think because I started out, it was a startup, but it wasn't. I already had gained a reputation, and actually I was 38 years old by the time I opened Core. So I knew who I was. I knew what the vision was for Core, but it was also a brand new start. And I have realized, being around the world, that the best restaurants, the most successful restaurants, have a very strong identity. So I knew from the start that I needed to break away from where I was previously and build something with a very, very strong identity, communicate that identity, but also I knew exactly what I wanted to do. I knew what we wanted to be.
Plant-based food shifts. How do you see this impacting the restaurant industry?
I see it as a part of responsibility as chefs. We all know we need to eat more grains and more vegetables, and but better quality meat and fish to be more sustainable. But from day one, Core was vegetable forward and using and championing humble ingredients and humble vegetables, because things that are easily grown around us. It's just a sort of a more responsible outlook. And also with fine dining, haute cuisine, it was really sort of pushing boundaries to show people that you can create something spectacular with something so humble and easily grown. And I think we'll see more and more of it. And it is the right way to be.
So, I know you guys at Core are always well staffed, constantly get people coming to do stages and work there and from all over the world. Why don't you face the same staff shortage issues as everyone else?
I think that we are we are at the top of the industry, so we naturally attract talented people that want to work at the very top. We invest heavily in our team. We do training every Wednesday, and we have people for a long time, and it's also good staff planning. So making the right hires is very important. I think that we would all know that you suffer if you're reactive in your hiring and hiring the wrong people. They're just going to be a big staff turnover. So it's about planning, making sure that when people hand their notices in and things like that, it's a good handover period for people. Making sure we're hiring right, and almost like kind of overstaffing a lot of the time to make sure we maintain consistency.
Yeah, it's an interesting point that in terms of hiring, because I think a lot of the industry now is at a stage where they're almost like, taking anything and everything, whoever shows up, but you take your time with that process. What does that look like? What happens in that?
So in our so we obviously get our CVs in. Then there's a first interview. If they pass the interview, they're invited for a 2-day trial. On the first day, we see really if they pass that first day. First of all, before they come in for trial, they get a handbook of everything that they need to wear, bring, exactly all the information they need, so they know when they turn up, that's the dress code, that's what's going to happen. And then they do their first day, and if that's still good enough, then we'll invite them back for the second day. And then if they pass the second day, and we think this is a potentially a good person, we kind of don't offer them a job. It's a bit funny. We kind of we ask them if they want to work at Core and how much they want to work at Core and how committed and for how long. And we send them away. We ask them if they want to work anywhere else and if they've got other trials lined up, and we send them away to do that. And then they come back to us. And I would never want to hire someone or offer them a job or a position if they didn't know that it was 100% where they wanted to be. I think that's just a false thing to do. If they're thinking, oh, I want to work for Alan Ducasse or I want to work for Gordon Ramsay, or go do those trials, make sure that when they've made the decision, they've made the right one, and then they come back to us and they're not thinking 2 weeks down the line thinking, oh, I wish I'd have gone to work for Alan Ducasse. Make sure they've done all their trials and their due diligence before coming on board, and then they're committed.
I think that's a very unique thing, especially now more than ever. Food critics, how do you feel about them? Are they necessary? Are their opinions even granted? What's your thoughts?
I think they're like everybody, good and bad ones. There's some that are more experienced and some not. End of the day, it is one person's opinion, and everybody's got one. And I think that today we can very much see with, online reviews, pictures, comments following restaurants that you can see yourself if it's going to suit your taste or not. I think the world's changed very much with the following of food critics. But like I say, some of them are brilliant writers. So that's the thing. There are those good ones, and then there are the bad ones, like everything. But ultimately, I would always say, success is a fact. Restaurants, it's how many food critics have ever opened a restaurant and made a business out of it, or even worked in one. So it is that thing about, I think we take it as laws of average. If we were a car company and we were looking at our reviews, we'd be taking it in percentages. And I think that's what we got to aim for, a high satisfaction rate. And it doesn't really matter if you're McDonald's or a 3-star restaurant. You're looking for customer satisfaction, and you can read those reviews, and success and financial success in a busy restaurant's just a fact. If one person's opinion, if they don't like it, that's just one person's opinion. There might be another, every now and then they'll get someone that doesn't like the potato. Forget about the 500,000 of them that have liked it. It's kind of, you got to strip it right back and think, well, I've had plenty of comments from, food critics that, like our lamb carrot was a pathetic excuse for a carrot, but it's one of the most popular and successful dishes. You know, I've been working in 3 Michelin star restaurants for over 20 years. I'll be the best judge of whether whether it's going to work or not, and I generally prove that my opinion does work. It's based upon all that feedback of the 500 people that we serve every week.
What one piece of advice would you give to other entrepreneurial chefs building businesses and leading teams?
Yeah, it's a very tough one, because you inspire other people through what you do yourself, and it's something you kind of learn. No one teaches you as a chef how to manage people. It's something you learn, and I certainly learned that through trial and error. No one taught me that, and it's something you have to constantly invest in. If you don't invest in your team, you just won't have a great team. To have a brilliant team, it's constant. It's all the time, every day. You've always got to be thinking about the next generation coming through and that training. And it is that old saying, you are only as good as your team are, and then you have to continuously invest. It's a bit like any major football team or anything. You've got your players, your all-stars, but then you've got to have behind that the next generation. Otherwise you'll only be there for 5 minutes, and you want to be there for forever, really.
Yeah. What are some of the ways that you've done that? So you said trial and error. Was there anything else? Was there reading anything or doing anything in specific?
I guess to communicate with people more, and to realize that what I thought people knew or should understand, that they didn't understand. And how would they? When I would take a step back and realize that that you're getting upset with someone, and it's just basically because you haven't trained them properly, and it is actually your own fault. Training is really key to that. So if you're arming people with all the knowledge that they need, and inspiring them, then you should have a pretty good, smooth time with them. That communicating, teaching, training is really, really important to that.
Take us back to a young Clare Smyth in Bushmills.
I was always quite ambitious and competitive. I was always quite naughty as well. Like, I never wanted to go to school. I would have done anything other than go to school. So I was more into sports and really sports and going out than I was into studying. And so working in the local hotels in my school holidays and my evenings, I just loved it because I loved the team atmosphere. And I was always very creative. So then I kind of started to see the creative side of food. But I think ultimately it's always been that that desire to succeed, or that desire to get out, to achieve more. I don't know where it came from, but it was always there. There was always a fire. And yeah, and I think also I was headstrong, single-minded, and when I left, I couldn't go back, because I'd made that decision, and it was like I have to succeed now. So no matter how tough this is, I've got to succeed. And I remember even my best friend at school saying to me, "Oh, I was going to leave the next day and come to England and get a job," and she was like, you can't just do that. And I said, watch me. It was like, and I did. So it was that thing about proving people wrong and doing whatever it took. And I think that's another thing, just doing whatever it takes. I think when you make a decision in life to do something, make the right decision, think about it, and then follow it through, no matter how tough it is.
Do you think, you said you knew you always had that fire that was there? Do you think that's the case? Do you think it can be gained, or do you think it can be learned or gained later? Or do you think it's a matter of you either have it or you don't from the start?
I think something's got to ignite it. I think that it's naturally in young people. And I think that there is, almost an arrogance, ignorance, all those things that it's kind of like that. As a young person, you just have that naturally, and you're headstrong because you don't know the world. You just single-minded and focused and have more drive and energy. And I think I grew up in a time where, you know, it was quite, when we were at school, you were always told you were never going to make anything of yourself. You were always told, that you weren't great. It was the opposite to now.
Mhm.
You'll never do anything, and it was kind of like, that just didn't fit well with me, that kind of authority. And so I just wanted out. But that's kind of a driving force as well. I think that a lot of that actually was very good for me because it drove me the other
That
direction.
fueled you
It
because
fueled
that was
me. Yeah.
you wanted to prove them wrong.
Yeah, and I just didn't want to be in that environment. I didn't want to work around people that were negative, or to build my life around that, and just kind of, I think that it's that I had my sights set on different things. And then it was kind of, but I feel that as a young person, that energy that you have, it's kind of like, I don't know, because you don't know anything, you're like a sponge. So everything's like being in a sweet shop, everything's amazing. You're just learning as much as you can. I would love that energy, and the amount I learned when I was younger and what I put into it, that was a huge fuel for me. And that really kickstarted my career.
When was the period that shaped you most, and who had the biggest impact?
I think, period that shaped me most would have been really early on in my career, as I was saying, that kind of a time when I was so obsessed about cooking and everything that I could learn. So I became just obsessed by it. When I moved to England and I would learn a little bit, I'd meet people, they'd open another door for me, I'd see something else, I just would just devour everything. I bought every book that I could see or find. And back then, there was no internet, there was no Instagram. It was word of mouth. So it was,
Yeah.
I'd hear someone in the kitchen talking about the French Laundry. I'm like, what's the French Laundry? And then, get the cookbook, and that opened a world. I remember there was the Grand Table du Monde, the book with all those beautiful restaurants in it, in the restaurant at Restaurant Gordon Ramsay. I opened it and I saw Louis Quinze, this gold restaurant, and my
Yes.
just blew my mind and my imagination, and I just knew that those places were where I wanted to be. So I read everything that I could, and I researched everything that I could. And I was 22, 23 years old then, but I was just every night went to bed reading about chefs and food, and I had this thing in my head where I wouldn't read like anything else other than to do any books to do with restaurants. Like I felt anything else was a waste of my time. Like I wouldn't read a novel, or I was so obsessed by it. I wanted to study and learn as much as I could. And I read I read the Scoffier Guide Culinaire twice cover to cover. And I was so
Really?
driven to learn. And that's what I mean about that youth and that drive, being a sponge. And the growth that I had during that time was probably the biggest growth in my career. I worked very hard. I put a lot into it. There was very, very tough times, but I knew it's what I wanted to do. And I'd do it all over again to get what I've got now and to have the enjoyment that I have now out of what I do. Um, it is that thing. It's like, how much work are you prepared to put in to make it work? And it is tough. Anything's tough in life. It's whatever you choose to do, you've got to push through that barrier. I think that sometimes it's pushing through that barrier that you learn the most. You learn the most about yourself. And I think that it's those are the biggest growth. It pushes you. It's a bit like when you're, say, in the shit in the kitchen, like
Yeah.
when you are like have no staff and you are pushed to your limits, you start to find ways out. You start to find your ways out of the shit, and it's a bit like the Matrix. So you're out of your comfort zone, you're pushing yourself to find new ways of doing things, and it's through doing that that you grow. And I think that you really put yourself under pressure to find out who you are. And I think that I've worked a lot under pressure situations, which ultimately built me a very thick skin and enabled me then to handle things later on in life, and the challenges that I faced later on, opening my own restaurant, being in the shit again, doing all the things.
Yes.
But I've been there, done it, seen it, been through it, and I know exactly what to do. And when I see young people under stress, and I'm always just saying to them, I know it, but push through it, get on with it, and you'll come out so much stronger.
Someone's standing there and those thoughts are going through their mind. I'm in the shit. I'm on the edge here. I'm thinking of fail. I'm going to fail at this, and those thoughts are all running through their minds. What is it that took you from that to making that switch and saying, right, I'm going to fucking do this. I'm going to get out of it. I'm going to do this, and it's going to be fine. What are those thoughts? What's going through your mind then?
I think it's a survival instinct, is that instinct, that will to survive, to do whatever it takes. But also, I think for young people now, when I see them going through it, it's very much more, I'll say, do your best, ultimately do your best. Don't panic, don't jump around, but fall back on your training. They've all done their training. They all know what they're doing. Fall back on your training, do your best, and put your head down and grind down into it, and actually, and try and weirdly get a bit of pleasure out of it.
Finding the comfortable in the uncomfortable.
Yeah, and know that you're putting it in, and you're surviving, and enjoy it more. I think those, going back 15 years ago, we would just have people screaming and shouting at us, and there wouldn't be that. But it is, at the end of the day, it is only food. I think we've always got to remember that as well. But that pressure is, you're just starting to open your mind up, being under pressure, and grow. And it's a really positive thing, because you never put yourself under pressure, you won't grow as much.
So we were having that conversation yesterday when it's similar to being in the gym or training as an athlete. It's like no one achieves anything or wins anything unless they put themselves through that intense training where they're continually failing. That's what the intent is, to get to the point where they're failing their muscles and their energy and their lungs, so they can continually grow and get stronger and fitter, right?
Yeah.
Same, sounds like you're saying the same sort of principle.
I always
when it comes
say,
to that.
Yeah, struggle and stress build strength. And that's in all senses. But, when we talk about this, we talk a lot more about mental health these days, because we're so much more aware of it. That's another thing about being aware about your mental state and health, and that building mental strength as well is so important. And you say, working your physical body and fueling yourself and looking after yourself, but also, building a strong mind is just as important, and well-being. So I think we need to think about that as well, and keeping yourself right in all ways. Treat yourself like an athlete to be able to perform.
What are some of your rituals, things that you do consistently that help you stay at the top of your game, whatever it may be? A physical act, a practice, a thought process, or even talking to someone specific?
There are a few things I do. I've got this bit of obsession where everything always needs to be in the same place every day, because it's just a standard. So having a standard, and when I would find that I feel like I get bogged down and that I'm not going anywhere, I always take a small step every day to get to go somewhere that I want to be. If I think, I've not created anything new for a while, or I'm just not feeling that inspiration, I take one little thing and I do it, and I try and do one little thing every day, and always improve what I'm doing in the kitchen. Outside of that, it's always gym, running, walking the dog. I do French lessons. I try to do I try to do other things that improve me as a person as well. And that's quite important.
I think that's really interesting. Such as your 3 pencils on the pass, right?
Yeah, 3 pencils, always the same length, gold writing facing up. It's that rituals and stuff about going into service, that everything's always the same, and it is just a ritual.
I think that's incredible, because it is totally that, and it's the same what anyone else does. It's those small details, but it's something, whether you need them or you don't, it's the ritual of that standard, right? And as long as I've known you, it's the same thing, right? Even though you may not use all 3 of those pencils, but they're there.
Yeah, 3 pencils, always add it. 3 pencils, the 3 Michelin stars. They're always red. They're always the same.
Brilliant. Is that what it represents?
I've always, yeah. I've always had them for that. Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So that represents the standard of what you're pushing for every day.
Yeah.
Many people look at leaders and high performance and high performers and just see the successes, the celebrations, and the trophies. I think sometimes people are led to believe that that's all it is, and that these people don't face problems. How true is that? And if not, what are some of the challenges that you face, and how do you keep moving forward?
Face so many challenges every day, really, constant. The more that you do, the more challenges you face. In business, the more higher your reputation, the more people expect from you. And I think you have to constantly work on managing yourself. I mean, I'll tell you a bit of a story. When a few years ago, when I first realized, that people were expecting a lot of me, and it really impacted me when I first realized it, because then I started questioning myself for the first time, and mentally it really sort of, then I suddenly got scared and a bit panicked about things. It was like doing a talk at the Royal College of Surgeons, and I did my first talk and I did it really well. And I left school at 16, and people would, and I thought, well, I used to have the attitude, just get on with it, just go with it, do it, learn from it. But then it went so well, they asked me to come again. And then I got really nervous because I just I crumbled, because I was like, these are some of the most highly educated people on the planet. The expectation's massive. I've left school since when I was 16. And then the whole sort of thing sort of came down on me. And it was that stress about, then I got sort of stage fright, stopped public speaking, tried to do anything to get out of it. And it took me a long time to work on myself to get back to it. And people don't know that. They don't know that when you get up on stage, or when you do something, the struggle that you're going through internally to get yourself to do it. And it's funny how, no one sees those things, that the pressure that's put on you, but is that thing about tackling it and working on yourself. But that comes more and more with that reputation, expectation that we face every day. Obviously, you've got business challenges as well, that happen, around us all the time. Things that we've got to fight. The more you have, the more you've got to try to protect it, to build upon it. But yeah, it's people don't see what you go through, but everyone faces similar challenges.
I think that'll be very inspiring for a lot of people. Like I said, it's like, people see the magazines and the articles and all these things, but they never see what goes on in the background and how much effort it requires to be that strong person, and the work you put in, not just in the restaurant, like you say, but outside of the restaurant, and when you're at the other side of the pass at home and working and reading and all those other little things. Thank you for sharing that. So I didn't really want to ask any of the normal bullshit female chef things, but there's one point I want to touch on, is that, clearly you are the first British female chef to ever win 3 Michelin stars. This inevitably will inspire many, many people now and to come historically. Why do you think it took so long for that to happen? And what are some of the limiting beliefs that you think held that back?
I think we always need to keep in perspective the fact that I think I was the fourth or fifth British-born chef to win 3 Michelin stars. So I think that's also got to keep in perspective. The UK itself was never really known for gastronomy, haute cuisine. It was always in the French that brought it to us. But of course, by percentages as well, the amount of women in kitchens is considerably lower than men. I think it's got a lot to do with the fact that a lot of women just weren't attracted to go into kitchens because of the environment. It was a very testosterone driven environment. It wasn't very inviting for people. And, I think there is something in the fact that, I know it because I see it every day with my team. It's young men will always put themselves forward a lot more than young women. It's always it's, I don't know, that's nature or whatever, but you've got to nurture more the female talent or recognize it more to bring it out, because I think that naturally they don't self-promote.
Do you think that's a self-belief thing of their what they believe they can or cannot achieve, or something that's ingrained in them?
I think that it's ingrained into society. I think it is still, although things are changing dramatically, I think the way you're brought up has got a lot to do with it. We are impacted by everything around us. I was walking in the park the other day and I heard a young coach teaching some school kids, and he was going on calling one of them a girl, and and like, that's girls sport, that's this and that. And it's like, so you've got a coach talking to like 8-10-year-old boys like that still. So
Yeah,
it's all around us all the time. Subconsciously, we don't even notice it, that it's so around us. So we are brought up differently. So maybe not naturally there just to self-promote in the same way that young men are told from day one, they're big, they're strong, and so we have to work on it. I think I was quite lucky because I grew up on a farm. I competed against my brother show jumping, and in show jumping, you don't have men and women. It's just the same. You compete against each other. So maybe that had an impact on me, that I didn't really think about it. But there's definitely work to be done. It's everywhere, and I think everyone would admit it when you actually think about it. It is all around us still.
totally. But moving in the right direction slowly.
Yeah.
Hot topic over the past few years is this idea of work-life balance. What's your thoughts on that? Should we have work-life balance? What is work-life balance, and at what stage, if so?
Individual, it's an individual thing. I personally work very hard to have more of a balance later on in life. I think it's personal to people, to what they want to achieve, what they want to do. I think that I always try and tell most young chefs that come to me are quite ambitious. They want to achieve a lot. I think life throws a lot of different things at you, challenges that you face, and I think we've always got to weigh up what we want to achieve and where we want to be in our life. Life can certainly, when you get to my age, you'll see your parents get older. People get sick. If you can't afford to pay for healthcare, it puts an awful stress on you. I always used to say you buy yourself choices in life. And sometimes that means working harder to get somewhere when you're younger so that you're able to buy yourself the choices in life that make your life better and more comfortable as you're older. And that was certainly the route that I chose. But each to their own. Some people are different life circumstances for different people. It's some people have wealthy
Yes.
parents, some people don't. But life is tough. And I've always taken the view of, if you want to get somewhere, put it in when you're young, and especially in hospitality, because there's so much opportunity. You can really do well at a young age.
What do you wish you knew when you first started, or one thing that you would say to yourself now for back then when you were 20, 21, start of your career?
I
Early
think
days.
I was very hard on myself when I was younger. I wouldn't speak to anyone. I wouldn't, I was harder on myself than I probably needed to be, and put myself under a lot more pressure than was necessary. I worked in very pressured environments for people that were, incredibly driven and the best, but I put even more pressure on myself. And I think that communication now, I know it's just about being human, and expressing a bit more what you're going through, and talking to people a bit more what you're going through. I think it helps a lot, and to realize that other people have done what you're doing or are going through the same thing.
Do you have any role models? If so, who and why?
Role models. I don't like. I kind of I love. There's certain sort of people I really admire. Like I love like Karen Brady. I think is amazing businesswoman, role
Mhm.
model. I loved like female sports stars like Lucy Bronze, England footballer, and Rachel Blackmore, the jockey. I just love people that break barriers and do things that actually show. Like Rachel Blackmore just is the best jockey. Like it's not the fact she's male, female. She's just the best jockey, and I just love those people that have just broken through and just absolutely smashed it. And those are hugely inspirationally, as the England football team and the European Cup. Hugely inspiring. But yeah, those kind of people for me are pretty cool. Pretty special people.
So I know you've had a couple of mentors throughout, your life and career at different stages. Can you share who they were and what do you think they saw in you at an early stage?
Mentors, I guess, I always come back to three people that I've always really looked up to. Three, two of them I work for. One I spent a little bit of time with, but Alan Ducasse, Gordon Ramsay, and Thomas Keller have always been for me for the last 20 odd years been the people that I looked up to and admired. And I'm so glad that 20 years later, it's still the same people. And it just goes to show what incredible people they are. Just that their work ethic, their longevity, they're just true greats in what they do, and completely different, very, very different styles. But I learned a lot from each of them. And I guess that they never tire. I'm always amazed about their energy, and I was lucky enough to do a four-hands with Alan Ducasse a few weeks ago, and the guy just blows my mind every time I speak to him. He is mind-boggling. There is nothing for Alan Ducasse that he can't do. There is, people who say think outside the box. There isn't a box for him. He doesn't see anything in front of him. If it's not there, he creates it. And he's just something else. And even at his age now, he's still just pushing boundaries. He has
Still going.
audacity. Yeah, he has, and he's not afraid to fail. He's just continues to do things and push boundaries, and things will open, things will close, things won't work, but he's at the forefront of everything. He's very aware of what's happening on the planet,
Mhm.
um, teaching people, but he's just mind blowing.
That must have been a pretty special moment. Obviously you worked for Alan Ducasse a long time ago as well. To come at the other side of after all the success you've achieved now, to do a four hands dinner with him must have been a special moment.
Yeah, I mean, 15 years later, returning to the same kitchen was pretty special for me, sentimental, and to be able to go
Mhm.
back with a couple of the cooks with my guys now and take them back there and spend time in that kitchen. There's just a huge amount of respect for all the people working there, the team. Still, for me, one of the best places in the world to work and to learn and train as a young chef. It's just an amazing place.
I'm sure that'll inspire them much the same, hopefully.
Yeah, I mean that they absolutely loved it. It's a Alan Ducasse calls it a virtual world. It isn't real because in Monaco is just something else in itself. But
Yeah.
the food and the produce of that region is just insane.
So what do you think they what do you think, because these guys are, like you say, the top of the game, top of the industry, and have been for a very long time. They don't mentor everybody. They obviously see something in someone and decide to do that, and decide to be that person, and create that relationship. What do you think they saw in you at a young age that shaped that?
I think one of the big things is actually quite boringly is consistency, um, loyalty, and consistency. I always tried to be the best I could be every day. Always tried to do my job, push myself that little bit further every day. No matter what it was I was doing, cleaning a floor or a stove or putting the veg away, I would always try and do it better than anyone else. It's all these small things that just added up. And then it's those tiny little things every day, but then consistency and longevity, stamina. I always knew that when I was working in the kitchen, you'd always get these, I was always young male chefs, sorry, quite, sort of cocky and showing off and trying to get the chef's attention. And I always knew that I had more stamina than them. I knew that I would outlast them, and I would just go better for longer, and I would get noticed. And it is that, and that loyalty. And so I got given opportunities, great opportunities, which then I took, and gave back, to make sure that no matter, again, how hard it was, whatever we were going through as businesses, or, as, you stuck with it, you're a part of it. And you put your all into making it work every day. And that's another thing that I think that young people there, whatever it is they're doing in their jobs, it is actually always about the team. So putting all of your effort in for the team, not for yourself. It's about like everything, 100% in every day for the team. And that's what makes a successful team and a successful business. It's not holding back, or that's not really my job, or this isn't about me, or I'm too good to do that job. You just do everything that you can every day for the team.
Love it. Is that quote, long-term consistency beats short-term intensity? Do you believe that? Is that true?
100%. Because look, anything in life, when you talk about building a reputation, it takes a long time to build a good reputation. It's quite short to lose it, quick to lose it. But you have to keep building upon it and upon it. And nothing in life, as I said, my quote, nowhere worth going is easy to get to. You keep building and building and building upon it. And you see the real greats in anything in life, they do it for life. And it is because they also love it. They sustain themselves, like great athletes, have an amazing career because they do it till the end. They manage themselves. That's also to do with managing yourself, like me now, getting a bit older. You kind of have to manage myself physically, and that's why I run or go to the gym every day. I want to keep myself on top form for a long time, because I'm in it for a long, long time.
Thank you. Exciting stuff. Thank you for your time and sharing your ingredients of success. No doubt I'll be seeing you soon.
Cool.
And until then, take care. And thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.